friends, PNW Erica here, licensed realtor in the state of Washington with RE/MAX Equity Group, specializing in Southwest Washington, Clark County. Today's video is a collab between myself and Mitch Tugaw at Gateway Mortgage. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi, so my name is Mitch Tugaw, as Erica said. I work with Gateway Mortgage here in Vancouver, Washington. So I do home loans and lending. We can do just about anywhere, but specialize definitely here in Washington and Oregon. And Erica asked me to join her today to start talking about mortgage forbearance and what that is all about.
Yes. So as a real estate agent, I get a lot of questions just when I'm out and about, like, what is forbearance? Who qualifies? And then I also get a lot of questions where people are expecting an influx of inventory because they think that all the mortgage forbearance is going to be due this summer. And I don't know if that's, true anymore. So let's back up a little bit and just talk a little bit about what mortgage forbearance is. And I think you're better served to answer this question than me.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot topic right now, especially like you said, with people thinking, once this forbearance ends, are all these homes going to be out on the market foreclosed on and whatnot? So, what forbearance really is, it's a program here for people that are in financial hardships that can't make their payments, right? With COVID-19 and all that going on. It's a way to help provide them some relief. And so what it is right now is it's a 180-day forbearance. So 6 months is what you can request.
Okay.
And then eventually you can extend it up an extra 180 days if needed.
Okay.
But right now it's a 180-day forbearance is what it is. And right now the deadline to request a forbearance is June 31st.
June 31st.
Okay. And how you would go about requesting a forbearance if it's something you need is you just call up your mortgage provider and you let them know, hey, I'm having financial hardship. And then they can grant your mortgage forbearance. You don't have to provide any documentation, and legally lenders are not allowed to ask, hey, why do you need this forbearance? You just have to say, hey, it's financial hardship, and they cannot poke and pry to get more information about what's going on with your finances. So
interesting. So if there's 180 days forbearance, and the deadline is June 31st to apply for it, what about those folks who maybe applied for it earlier in the pandemic? Like, is there a date where those, the forbearance is gonna start to become due?
Yeah, so they have 180 days, right? And then once they get to that end, we'll get notification saying forbearance is ending. But right now you can request an additional 180 days. So you can go up to a full year essentially of forbearance.
Okay. So if someone had requested it like earlier in the pandemic, like let's say, a year ago, 180 days, that's about 6 months, right? So they would have had to have already kind of requested an extension, and then that extension gives you another 6 months. So I'm just trying to figure out like when the first forbearance is. And I know that every lender is different, but I'm trying to figure out when some of these forbearances might be due, or can they keep, extending them?
Yeah, and so that's where I think a lot of people are getting confused about, right? So they can only extend it to 360 days as of now. Okay. You never know with President Biden and all that going on. There's always moving parts. So could it get extended? Yes, we might see that. But what also that means is right now it's different by each lender or provider. So for example, here at Gateway, what we're doing is you request a forbearance and you go 6 months into forbearance. We're just going to tack that onto the end of your 30-year loan. Right.
So that's another question as to how that actually, how those dollars, how that works.
So a lot of people thinking, hey, we might have all these homes coming on the market in the next 6 months. The forbearance is ending. Really, these people aren't having to bring big balloon payments for the most part, or their mortgage payments aren't going up to get caught up on their forbearance. A lot of them are just getting tacked onto the back end of the 30-year mortgage. And so there's not a penalty where, hey, they're going to have to foreclose on their home because they can't afford it anymore, right? Their payments will start again, and hopefully they can afford it. If not, they can really turn around and sell if they need to.
Right. So there's not going to be a big wave, as far as we're anticipating, of like bank-owned homes foreclosure crisis because of, what you mentioned is that the payments are just going to, so if you owed 30 years, maybe now you're going to owe 31 years. And there's no interest in those for the time that it goes on the back end, correct? There's no additional financial interest or penalty in addition to what you would already be paying because your loan life is extended.
Yeah, so a few examples here. So some companies, forbearances, it's backed by government provided loans, right? So USDA, VA, conventional, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, all those. So if you have a private loan through potentially like a Wells Fargo or something, they might have different standards. So
good point.
And each lender is different how they're handling it. So some lenders, at the end of the forbearance, they're requiring a 3-month balloon payment. Other lenders might be saying, hey, we're going to up your payment $500 a month until you get caught up, and then we'll bring it back to what it was. But I would say 95% of lenders are doing where they're tacking it onto the back end.
Got it.
Just because they want people to keep their mortgages, right? So they're trying to help people out.
Because of what happened, over a decade ago, a lot of people weren't able to stay in their homes. And I think that there's quite a difference this time around with, the government wanting people to not get in that terrible position. Right. So I think that there's a lot of things different about this market than, the one in 2008-ish. And, a lot of people are trying to compare this to that market and saying that there's going to be, a bubble, everything's going to become due, foreclosures are going to flood the market and increase inventory. But I don't see it happening. And, for the reasons that we just talked about with what forbearance is, I don't think that, it's something for people to count on in terms of increasing inventory. So
totally. And if you look at the market today, especially in the last year, I think what it was 12% equity gained by the average home
just because
owner in the last year.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case in 2008. No one had equity like they have right now. So if someone was in a bind and they really needed to do a quick sale of their home, there's not an issue there.
Right.
And then the last thing I was going to say, for those companies that are tacking it onto the back end of a 30-year mortgage like Gateway, the only really penalty you're facing is you're still accruing interest. So over the end of that 30-year loan, if you do live out your 30-year loan, you're going to pay a little bit more interest than you were going to if you would have never entered forbearance.
Just because the payment term is longer, but there's not a special, we're going to charge you an additional interest percentage for the amount that you've gone into forbearance. Nothing like that is happening. Yeah. No.
And that's great. Just a little bit more of accrual of interest there. So.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I feel like that's a lot of good info. And that kind of, wraps this up. Is there anything else that you want to add here?
Let me think. The one thing I will add is on that deadline I mentioned, that June 31st.
Yeah.
So right now that is for USDA, FHA, and VA. As of currently, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac held loans they don't have a deadline. So you can still request that come July, end of summer if you need to. I'm sure probably in the next month or so they're going to throw a deadline on there.
Sure.
Because I can't imagine them just keeping it open-ended forever.
Right.
And then the other thing that I've been reading about too is there's a lot of scams going on with the whole forbearance thing. So if you get letters in the mail, emails, all that, beware of what you're reading. And if it's something you do have in question, I would reach out to your lender to kind of follow up and make sure, hey, is this something official or is this someone trying to scam me? Because we're seeing a lot of that. I've been getting phone calls on it pretty frequently too.
That is such a good point, and that's something that I didn't even consider, because in every instance you're always going to have scammers for something. So here's somebody, oh man.
Yeah, I know.
That's shady.
Very shady and slimy, but people are going to, with people that are in financial hardship, they're going, oh my gosh, I can jump on this and take advantage of someone. Yep.
Good point. All right. Well, I think that wraps up this very special video. I'd like to thank Mitch Tugaw for joining me today. His contact information is going to be in the video description and comments. Once again, if you'd like to reach out to either of us, we would love to help you out in your home search, home journey, and anything else we can do for you. Cheers.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Erica.